Now, from CBS News Miami, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede, and 2024 is shaping up to be one of the most consequential elections in South Florida, and not because of the presidential election. In Miami-Dade, we'll be electing for the first time in more than 60 years a sheriff, an election supervisor, and a clerk of the county court system. These are all partisan races. But there is also a nonpartisan race that is expected to be a major test for both Democrats and Republicans, the race for Dade County Mayor. The current mayor, Daniella Levine Cava, has high approval ratings, but Republicans are eager to take her out, hoping to build on their ability to turn Miami-Dade red in 2022. Now, it's not clear who the conservative DeSantis wing of the Republican Party will support, but one moderate Republican has gotten into the race. Miami Lakes Mayor Manny Cid. I spoke to him last week and asked him why he was running for county mayor.
I think this is the most important election in our generation's history. And let me be clear about that. I know that's been said in every election, right? Whether you run for president or Senate or whatnot, but it rings true in 2024. I mean, we're seeing a transition in our community to new county-wide elected positions, 5 new positions that are going to be elected in a partisan basis. We're seeing all the crises happen on the county level all at once. And I truly believe it's time for somebody of my skill set, which in my point of view, I am probably the candidate with the most diverse experience in our county's history. And you're talking about most people that run for county office, county mayor, either are experts in the public sector or are business people. I'm both, right? So I bring both sides to the table, and I think we're ready to do it. We're ready to do it and take it on.
So what is it about Daniella Levine Cava's administration that you think is lacking that she needs to be replaced?
Well, it's not only her. I mean, I think the entire county apparatus needs reform. I mean, you saw it yesterday with the conversation on the garbage issue, and you see it during the budget process, right? We have an $11 billion budget. They're talking about adding another 700 plus employees and raising taxes, not only fees, but taxes again on people. And one thing that folks sometimes don't understand is that when we talk about making Miami-Dade County affordable, it starts with property taxes, right? If you were to buy a home or an apartment and you said, you know what, I'm going to have this as an investment, yet your taxes went up 10% every year because it's a non-homesteaded property, you can't eat that money, right? You have to pass it on because you still have to pay the mortgage. You still have to take that on. So you're starting to see that pass through, and it's getting to a point where people can't afford to live here. People that have grown up here, that were born in Miami-Dade County, are moving out at a staggering pace.
So before we get into any specifics, let's take a step back for a second. You said, you come at this from a diverse background. So for folks who don't know who Manny Cid is, tell us about Manny Cid, to give us your background.
So I spent 7 years in the Florida legislature, in the Florida House of Representatives, as a senior legislative aide to 2 state reps, one for 1 year, the other for 6 years. Had a great opportunity there where I wrote state statutes, I appropriated money in a multi-billion-dollar budget, and it really prepared me for local office. I ran for city council in 2012, became the youngest vice mayor in Miami Lakes history at 29 years old. Then at 33, became the youngest mayor in our community's history and was the first mayor to win re-election unopposed. But at the same time, I have my private sector side where I've owned several businesses, and currently I own a restaurant where during the COVID-19 pandemic, it gave me an awakening of the plight of the working class in our community. I almost lost my business. I lost 80% of revenue overnight because of the pandemic, and I learned how to cook. I was forced to cook, and I would have to juggle both jobs as being mayor and cooking every day to make sure that I didn't have to close the doors of my restaurant. And today we're about to celebrate the 5th year anniversary. We're doing well, but it's that adversity that has shown me, what our county needs going forward. Somebody who understands the working class, speaks just like them, understands them, sees through their eyes, walks in their shoes, and then somebody too that can hold their own when it comes to the county bureaucracy, taking them on and making sure that the county responds to the needs of everybody in our community.
The restaurant is called the Mayor's Cafe there in Miami Lakes. I understand it's a good breakfast spot. I haven't eaten there yet, but I'll have to come by.
Most definitely, it is, but it's taught me that. It really has given me. I thought of owning a restaurant was showing up, shaking hands, this and that. No, and I'm there every single weekend. But I'm the one that busts the tables. I run food. So it truly has given me that awakening of the plight of the people in our community, that sometimes their voices don't get heard.
You talked about, surviving through the pandemic. Did you think that the county mishandled the pandemic in terms of keeping businesses closed?
I was the most vocal mayor in South Florida against the shutdown of small businesses, and I was very clear about it. I said, look, these shutdowns disproportionately impact minority businesses in our community, African American businesses, Hispanic businesses, disproportionately, because we saw that a lot of folks were able to move forward. They got their PPP, they got everything. But there were a lot of folks that didn't, and they had to shutter their doors. And I was very vocal. I organized press conferences, spoke to the mayor at the time, the commissioners, and I said, look, what you all are doing is wrong.
Sure, and I understand. I think it's important to look at the policies that were implemented then and try to learn, since really there was no playbook for how to handle a pandemic. I'll also ask this question. How many people did you know died during the COVID-19 pandemic in Dade County? Did you have friends and others who died?
I did. I had friends, people who ate who were friends of mine that I had met at the restaurant and in our community. My business partner, who I've known since we were in kindergarten, his mom passed away from COVID. So definitely the COVID-19 pandemic hit home. Had other friends that were very close to who passed away, had young people in our community that were in the hospital. So it definitely did hit home, and it's something that, when we look back on it, it was definitely a very difficult period in all of our lives.
I only raise that and ask that question because I think that, sometimes we remove ourselves from that period of time in which there were a lot of deaths. There were a lot of people dying. More than 80,000 Floridians died during the pandemic. And I'm all in favor of revisiting and examining what worked and what didn't work, what could have been done better in the future. But, when you talk about the tears of those in businesses who were shut down, there were also a lot of tears of family members for those who passed away.
100%. And it was a terrible moment. And not only did we have a lot of people who passed away, a lot of loved ones, we also had another major issue, which was mental health. And we saw an increase in mental health issues throughout South Florida, throughout our country, due to the pandemic, which we're still dealing today. And I think that's something that does not get enough attention in our community, is helping people who are going through mental health crises, for whatever it may be. But yeah, definitely the pandemic, not only do we have that major impact with loved ones who are no longer here, who we think about every day, but also we're dealing with that impact on the mental health issues, folks who lost everything, not only loved ones, but just their hope, their future, and that's something that still has an impact that we need to tackle today.
Obviously, Dade County went red for the first time in 2022. That's emboldening Republicans such as yourself in believing there's an opportunity here. Why do you think Dade County went red in 2022?
We saw Democrats in the past abandon the working class, and then you saw Republicans truly taking that mantle of speaking to working people and working class issues. And that's something that we're focused on, where we're going to build a large coalition with small business owners, with the Black working class, white working class, Hispanic working class in Miami-Dade County, and build the largest coalition of people, of voters in our county's history. But that's been coming a long way, right? In Miami Lakes, you had folks like Bob Graham, who's a great friend of mine, and he was one of the founders of my community. And when he was governor, he would talk about working class issues. Today, you see a lot of folks who are more on the liberal side really forget about working people. And I think Republicans have stepped in, like myself, and not only because I am somebody who works 7 days a week to make ends meet, but because it's important.
One of the things I don't hear you mentioning, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, Florida has also become defined by many of the culture war issues that have been brought about under Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm curious, you're talking about your role as mayor, looking out for the working class, but so often, when you talk to Republicans, they talk about that, but then next thing you know, we're talking about abortion bans and anti-LGBT legislation and those sorts of steps. We saw it with the school board again just this week. I'm just sort of curious what your overall thoughts are when it comes to these culture war fights that we've seen across the state of Florida right now.
So I'm personally from the working class wing of the Republican Party, where we're focused on pocketbook issues, and we did it in Miami-Dade. That's why we enjoy in our community. The town's done the surveys, and we've done some private ones. We enjoy an 85% approval rate. That's something that does not exist on the county level, does not exist on the state level or the federal level, because we focus on pocketbook issues and we focus on what we can control. Me as mayor in the county, I'm going to focus on what's on my plate. I'm not a congressman. I'm not a president. I'm not a governor. I'm not a state legislator. I'm not going to have an RRD next to my name when I'm on the ballot. So I'm going to focus on pocketbook issues, and I'm going to allow different levels of government who take on some of these issues and talk about it to do that. But as mayor, I'm going to focus on what I did in Miami Lakes, focus on the pocketbook issues that truly translate very well with everybody in our community.